The French merit of order. Okay. So luckily we're not live. Yes, we are. Where Laurie is telling me like the name of the award now that we're live. So hello, and welcome to Intercultural Spark, that show about the spark inside you that drives you to spark change in the world through mission-driven businesses and life projects. Welcome to Intercultural Spark. Hello. So I am absolutely delighted to be here today with my guest, Laurie Glenn, who is actually a longtime friend, but oh my God, she was just awarded by the entire country of France. She was honored with the National Medal of Merit. I mean, this is like up there with like the French lead. It's the highest award that someone can get who's a non-French citizen. Toni Morrison, Steven Spielberg, like up there with people who have received this honor. And of course, it's no surprise to those who know her because Laurie has been a tireless, fighter and advocate for giving voice to people who've been marginalized. And she does that through her business, Think Inc. strategy, which we're going to learn more about today. So before we go any further, though, I always like to start with our flash exercise. So our ta-da flash exercise. So because I am not only a marketer, but also a group fitness instructor, I always like to start with interpretive aerobics. So this is an exercise. We'll invite Laurie to do it with us. And I always like the drama of, although actually I'm dressed for the royalty that is my guest today. But I'm going to show you today's exercise, and then I'm going to give you and Laurie a chance to do it with me and to guess what it is. So this one actually takes a little bit of equipment. And yes, my gold dress is for Laurie. So this exercise, you can do it in your chair, or what I've done, I've got these bands right here. So these are resistance bands leaning against a wall. There's two ways to do this exercise, which is for your shoulders. So the first way is just to pull your arms straight down, and that's going to work your shoulders. So if you put your arms overhead and down, that's your shoulders. The second way is to actually do it to tuck your chin. This is now for your core. You're going to tuck your chin and round your torso to actually bring that band forward. So tuck your chin and round, and that turns it into a core exercise. So that is our exercise of the day. My question, and don't answer the question right now, Laurie Glenn. At the end of the show, for you and for everyone who's watching, you'll get to guess why I chose that exercise for the show. Laurie, how are you?
I'm great. It's so lovely to be here with you, Deanna.
Oh, now I'm going to poke fun. I shouldn't. That because Laurie and I've known each other for so long, and it'll be like, yes, it is lovely to be with you as well, Laurie. Thank you. So actually, I just found out yesterday that people are calling you Lady Laurie. So that's why I wore like the gold dress. I've got the shawl. So I am dressed. Wait, I've got my diamond earrings.
I saw that. They're beautiful.
Thank you. I wanted to make sure that I was appropriately dressed for Lady Laurie.
That is my joke. You can call me Lady Laurie, or that's what I will call a nightclub that I will open one day.
I love it. So Laurie, tell us though tell us about the award. So we're going to go, let's start in right with the award, and then we'll go to everything you had to do to actually make it happen. And I know you've got a copy there, but I'm actually going to show a picture of it too. So it's like big. Now, is this glass case at your home, or is this like how they gave it to you?
No. This is in fact, what I was given.
Okay.
And I know Deanna didn't want me to use a fake background.
I know for any future guests, if you come on my show, you're not allowed to do a fake background unless we've been friends since like 1994, since we were 5.
Exactly.
All right. There you go.
And then they give you a lovely box to
open,
and then they give you a certificate, actually.
Okay. This is why It's like,
Hilarious.
Lori doesn't really exist. Stop. Put it down. You
I
don't get
know.
to do
So
that.
the
Stop.
certificate basically says that the president of the Republic of France, who is the head of the Order, National Order of Merit, has made me a Chevalier de l'Ordre National du Mérite. So I'm a knight. I've been
Oh
knight.
my God. Wait, I brought, just in case I needed my French flashcards, I need to look up Chevalier. What is it? So Chevalier de Course, it means that you're knighted by the Republic of France.
Yes, that's correct.
Laurie Glenn, that's so exciting. So, but
That's
now, so
hilarious.
years ago, I went to an event where you had young emerging leaders who were Muslim, I believe. They came
Yes.
to the US
Yes.
right after Obama
Yes.
became
That's
president.
right. That's
So
right.
that's part of, explain what that was, because you were honored for the work that you've done to
Well,
build those connections and promote French culture, correct?
yes. So really, Fabrice Rosy, who was the cultural, thank you, Valerie.
Hi, Valerie.
Um, so Fabrice was the cultural attaché for the French consulate in both New York and Chicago. And we met when he was in Chicago and worked together for 4 years. And really, when I met Fabrice, it was just like a friend affair from the beginning. We just really connected. And he came in, and he's an extraordinary man and thinker who really understands the power of the role he has to influence thought leaders and to really build the relationships between the two countries. But and he actually came to some programs that I work with Teresa Cordova at the Great Cities Institute. And we would do a series of programs on various issues with people like Don Rose, who are political consultants, Jesus Chuy Garcia, who is now a congressman, and other speakers and thinkers from France, where we actually talked about some social policy issues. And Fabrice loved the program, and it got his thinking going. And as a result of it, and maybe if I could figure out how to get the background off, but together we created this thing called Cité Cité, a transatlantic exchange, which I called it 2 Countries, 2 Days, a World of Ideas in 2015. And this program actually still exists. And in fact, and it was with the University of Chicago, the University of Illinois at Chicago, the Sorbonne, and the Paris.
And actually, didn't you teach at the Sorbonne? What did you teach?
I taught at the Sorbonne.
What did you teach at the Sorbonne? I just want everyone to know that this is Laurie. Like, she can just be like, oh, I forgot about that. Like, don't even go. And yes, I would be like, oh, and I taught at the Sorbonne. Okay. So, but that's actually why you're so successful. And I'm like,
what I think is important is my work is about building social movements, and our work with Think Inc. I have a political and public affairs consulting firm, and my work is about facilitating power. As I like to say, it's a transfer of power from those who have too much of it to those who need more of it. To level the playing field, because that's what we need in a democracy, right? Which is pluralism, and it's a duking it out of ideas. And we find a place in the middle where we can all live together, which seems to be harder and harder for us to do. And so working with Fabrice and other people, I was fortunate for about 20 years. I lived between Chicago and Paris, and I worked with French artists. And I created Think Art, which was an international art and policy salon, a fusion of art and politics. And it's virtual now, but I will be doing more programming with it in the near future. But I started by showing art in my home, and then actually created a French salon. And shout out to Rosanna Marquez, who helped me to really think through this fusion of art and politics years ago to create Think Art. And it was really a French salon in my home. It was my office, home, and gallery.
Mhm.
And I had artists from France, the United States, and South America
Mm.
emerging, and
Mhm.
established artists. I worked with Barbara Crane, who's no longer with us, and Richard Hunt, who's
Oh,
still going
sure.
strong and doing amazing work. And it allowed me to be in international art festivals. I was in London, Miami, Paris, and Chicago in these international art fairs. And at one of them in Paris, I got a phone call from this woman who really is one of the most incredible women I've ever known, Laura Berg, who is the cultural attaché of the US Embassy in
Mm.
Paris. And she calls me, and she's an extraordinary woman, just so powerful, brilliant. And she has a very little voice. So this woman calls me, says, "Hi, Laurie." And it's the last day of this fair
Mhm.
where I sold nothing, which is not unusual.
Mhm.
Anyway, and so I'm like,
Mhm.
she's like, "I'm with the US Embassy in Paris." And this was under George Bush. And she's like, "And we like to do democracy building." And I'm like, "Really, we do?" And I love the work
Mhm.
of your artist Florent Mouty,
Mhm.
which was about the voice of marginalized communities in France.
Mhm.
And so we built a relationship. And from there, I ended up bringing over two delegations of Muslim leaders, one you referred to earlier,
Mhm.
which were elected officials from the left to the right who wanted to understand how did Barack Obama become president. And I actually, we put together a delegation, brought them over, and had them meet everyone from then Mayor Daley of
Mhm.
Chicago to the most
Mhm.
radical community groups so they could
Mhm.
understand the politics of
Mhm.
the United States.
So, question for you. So this show really works a lot with micro entrepreneurs, which only means you have like fewer than 10 employees. And
Yes.
it's what you've achieved, but it's also how you've achieved it. And you kind of joke. So there's so much in what you just said. So one thing, like you joked that, like, oh, and of course we didn't sell anything. So how did the business side work of it? Because obviously there had to be a business element of it to make it sustainable. I know Valerie asked if you ever worked with sister cities in your work.
I'm a member of the Sister Cities French.
Oh,
Paris.
of the French city. So how does that part work? You have tons of clients. So was the art on the side of your thinking strategy clients? Do you mind? You don't have to tell us all the
No,
secrets, but
it's
tell us a
very
little bit like how did
interesting
it work?
because so Think Inc. is a political and public affairs consulting firm on social justice issues, and it's been my primary business. And then I started working in the art world,
Mhm.
and because
Which is how we met, by the way. Lori came to my office at the airport and wanted to put an art exhibit at O'Hare. And I just find this story so funny is that what we ended up doing is, the way city government works, there was a big expansion going on at O'Hare. And part of the project was to pull out an escalator. But how city contracts work, it was going to be 2 years before they could actually redo the terrazzo on the floor. And so that's what we ended up doing. Lori came, we're like, yeah, let's figure it out. And we did a mural in the floor
Mhm.
at O'Hare, and then September 11th happened, and it ended up being right where everybody was walking, so it was a really visible spot. So just a fun little sidebar, though. So actually, only a sidebar though that says you must just reach out like you have no fear. This is about how you do your business because what's interesting is you work with marginalized communities, you give voice to people. You are a very bold personality, but it's never your voice that's actually on TV. Like you're never the front
Yeah.
face. But now I see how we built. Like, is that part of your style? Like you're just fearless. Like I'll just ask. I'll just do what I want to do.
Yes, I think it's 'cause, when I was a kid, my parents, we would drive cross country, and my parents would dump me in the swimming pool. At the end of the day, I realized now probably to have sex. I don't know something. And I would just be in the swimming pool and I'd be like, "Hi, my name's Lori." And I've been doing that all over the world. The first time I was in Europe, I
Mm,
was 5 years old. And
yeah.
so I was, yeah, on a camel
Mm.
at 5 in Morocco. In fact, my
Oh, wow.
teacher at Sunday school, I'm Jewish and I would go to
Mhm.
Sunday school, and they said, "What'd you do over the summer?" And I said, "Well, I rode a camel." And when my dad picked me up, the teacher said, "Your daughter's been lying." And my dad
Ah.
freaked out. I loved my daddy. He was great. Roland Glenn, an amazing man.
Mhm.
And he swore at her, said, nobody talks to my daughter.
Mm.
My daughter doesn't lie. She was on a camel. I still remember it.
Laurie, it's interesting when you tell stories. So, just in the context, we've been together now for 15 minutes, and you have given credit to so many people. And I know relationships are so important to what you do.
Yes.
How do you do that? I'm always afraid, like, oh, if I say this one, then this one's going to get mad. Like, you're very clear and good about giving other people credit.
Well, because that's what life's about. It's a
Mhm,
team sport. I couldn't do anything alone.
mhm,
And I've grown so much as a person. When I was young, let's just say I invented myself. And so I really had to learn. I learned by doing. I mean, yes, I went to the University of California in Santa Cruz and studied political theory, but that doesn't teach you how to be a political consultant. And
mhm,
I ran electoral campaigns. And in my 20s, I was a young woman. I opened my first company, when I was 25. And I
mhm,
just said, I'm a political consultant. And I got a business card in a little office kitty corner of the Greyhound bus station on 7th and Market in San Francisco, and just did it. And I
mhm,
just felt like I had a lot of people telling me a lot of times that I couldn't do things, that I wasn't smart enough, that I was a woman,
mhm,
that I was too young. And I was constantly just saying, no, a woman can be at the table. I always wanted a seat at the table, but not
mhm.
for world domination, but to
What did
create.
you say? Not for world domination?
No, not for world
Wait,
domination,
thank you
not
for
for
clarifying
myself.
that, but
It was really for
so funny.
to show that women, to
Mhm.
create a seat at the table, so women
Yeah,
can be at the table and not have people staring inappropriately at inappropriate parts of your body, or
sure.
making inappropriate comments.
Mhm,
I mean, I had things said to me that no one should ever have said to them or done
mhm,
to me, and tried to marginalize me as a woman.
mhm. It's interesting what you said is that idea of yes and because when you're giving that's so interesting. And this actually has to do with the whole idea. When one person achieves something, it doesn't diminish another. And so when you're giving
No,
voice to marginalized people, it actually doesn't take away voice from someone else. It just opens the broadness of opportunity for conversations, for solutions. Nobody's figured out how to make things work. We still have too much crap going on in the world, you
that's why
know?
it's a team sport. We need one another. Life
Mhm.
is about sharing. And I feel very strongly that the award that I was given wasn't an award to me. It was to Laura Berg. It was to Randian Peku. It was to Tara Dickman. It was to Reda Didi. It was to all the leaders that I met, because Laura, I did all this work at the US Embassy in Paris, and then she went to the German Marshall Fund, and I got to train and mentor and
Mhm.
advise leaders, young leaders of inclusion, in Europe and the United States. And
Mhm.
many of them now, several of them sit in the European Union
Mhm.
as
Wow.
members of the parliament there.
That's a testament to all that you do, though, and the relationships you build is one that when someone else has an idea, they're like, "Oh, Lori can do that." Because I'm gonna use a bad word on my own show. Like, you know how to get shit done, you know? And so if
Yeah,
someone's like, "Oh, we could
yes,
maybe do this thing that could be pretty amorphous," and some of the things you do start with an intention to feel good, but like you're putting stuff into action with measurable results. I mean,
but
that's
let me
really a
just
deep
say the
skill.
difference is, when I was younger, I would be like, I come in and I'd be like, I'm the smartest Jew in the room. Let's just get this done. And I was like, thank you, Valerie.
Yeah.
But, and I was, really terrible. I was just young, and you could say I was fearless, but actually I was scared shitless. I was
Mhm.
always I felt like I had to prove myself, and I didn't always know. I'd tell people all the time, oh, I can do that. And then I'd call somebody up and say,
Tell me, how do I do that?
I'd write down the steps, and then I'd go do it, and it would go well, fortunately,
Yeah.
most of the time. But I really evolved over time, and I
Mhm,
think we do that as we age, I hope. And what was once more about me, it's not about me. And
mhm,
I really feel strongly that I love my clients, and I think
mhm,
that's really important. I won't work with consultants who are belittling of their clients. I think that's just not okay. It's just not, it's a no-go for
Well, it
me.
doesn't even make sense because usually you're the one who's like the biggest cheerleader for the clients.
Yes.
I want to look at that stuff a little
But I
bit.
do
We're
want to
gonna.
say this, it's really about building power for my clients. And so when I walk in, I get stuff done, but I get stuff done by teaching what I understand and learn and tools so my clients can get stuff done without me. And that is so important to
Oh,
me.
that's what you said. Yeah, I've heard you say that. Like your
This is
goal is to
key.
get yourself out of a job, is to
That's right.
empower your clients to do it on their own. Laurie, I
Yes.
want to look deeper at some of your clients. So we're going to jump to the flash photo stories. And what that means is Laurie has shared some photos ahead of time. So I'm going to flash each one on the screen, and then you're just going to tell me like a 1-second story about it. This would be where I would probably drop in the conversation. Oh, and by the way, did I mention the award that I got? Which you did. So this is
yes, we've already done that.
we've already talked about this. Just saying. What's going on here though? What is this? This is the march. Did you organize this march?
Yes. So one of my longtime clients that I've worked with since the mid 90s off and on is the Kenwood Oakland Community Organization, known as COCO, which is a Black empowerment organization based on the South Side of Chicago, but really their work has grown to be statewide, and they have affiliates that are national, and they're really an incubator of organizations and leadership around affordable housing, school equity issues, and on and on. And so they have a young group of women leaders with Good Kids, Mad City, and Move, a mothers-driven organization, all in, they are both citywide as well as on the south and west side of Chicago. And the young women leaders of this group came together about 5 years ago, it's their 5th anniversary, to talk about how Black women and girls are missing and murdered. And for some reason, they don't seem to get front page headlines, and they certainly don't get the kind of attention from the authorities on multiple levels that if white women had gone missing or murdered, that we see on a daily basis.
You're talking about disparity in news representation of people.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
and not just news representation. No, it's about the services. It's about police and public safety officials. I'm sorry.
So the actual response, not just how it's even presented. Sure.
Days post-COVID, excuse me. But and so the real issue is media is a tool for building power and influence. It is not about media itself. We use media as a way to raise an issue and force a governor or a county president, board president, or a mayor or a police chief to actually do something and to actually go and find out what happened to these women.
So here's the thing that's really important, what you just said, Laurie, which is, so media is the tool to get that exposure. So what you do a lot of, and is this from the same event? What you do a lot of is get the media, like you'll create events to get the media to pay attention, to get it in the media. So you often have to create really big things to make that happen.
That's right. So it's all about creating strategic communications around, and over a period of time is building a voice of a leader or set of leaders, an organization, a social movement, and to get people to understand that community voice is actually an expertise in and of itself. There are all the time, I worked with financial institutions for many years, and people would come to me and say, we want to do this to this community, Laurie. And I would be like, oh, that's really nice that you want to do this really nice thing to this community. How about we go to this community and ask them what they want done to them? Oh, that's really a good idea.
Sure.
So we walk in and meet with community people to say, how does this affect your community? Is this what you want to have happen? So I was very fortunate. This is about Dick Simpson, who I've known since I was 9 years old. He was an alderman in the city of Chicago. And he had a profound,
I just want to frame this for a second, because what was really impressive about this, which
Yeah.
is a flyer for an event, I think I have a picture of the event, but it gives people an idea of the depth and layering of Laurie's work, because it was, we have an issue in this community. And like, it wasn't, it was, how do we do the research to document what it is, do an event at a really high level place to get the right stakeholder. Like, this is so layered. And I just want to point that out, because when you look at one flyer, you're like, oh, in this event we did, like Laurie, like there's nothing happening by accident at any stage of pulling this together. So I just want to do those kudos to you. But now, sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, in this particular case, this is actually about Dick Simpson's book that he wrote. And Dick Simpson was really the conscience of the city council in Chicago. And over 50 years, he's been really a voice around good government. He wrote this book about our democracy. And in this particular case, I was brought in to really raise. It's very hard to promote a book, and I only did it because I really love Dick Simpson. He is exactly the kind of leader we need more of. He is not about himself. He is about the actual issues and about the power of our democracy and getting the voice of people into our democracy. But we did name this the Crisis in American Democracy, because we needed to bring something really powerful to get attention to this book, Democracy's Rebirth, The View from
Chicago. And that phrase right there, everyone's going to look at that, because I think so many people, because, you know, society's gotten so divisive. Many, you know, whether you agree left or right, almost everyone will agree like democracy is not working now. So I think that title was very enticing.
Yes. And also the people we brought to the table. Scott Simon, you know, we've known for years, and Dick Simpson had a strong relationship. Scott did this for Dick. And so, but we got him to come to the table. Angelique Power, who's an extraordinary leader, who's been transforming the foundation and philanthropic world around equity, inclusion, and diversity, and was a client of mine, brought to the table. And Elizabeth Maddow, I know I'm mispronouncing it, Elizabeth. If you ever watch this, my apologies. Great young leader, academic around democracy issues, who's also got her own book coming out with the Eagle Institute at Rutgers. And we were able to build a dynamic discussion, which really elevated the work of Dick Simpson, whose voice is so critical to our democracy today.
So now, interesting, ultimately, and I'm going to go, we actually have like 2 minutes left. It goes so fast when we're talking. So it started with, how do I promote the book? And you're like, okay, yeah, you're right. Books, like promoting a book, who cares? But that, you're right. That actually is what elevates it to something else. So we're just going to fly through these last two. That is obviously our mayor, Laurie Lightfoot. What is this? Is this?
And again, this is Dick Simpson. And again, so Dick had this actually smaller discussion, and I'm like, can't we move it from this place to, and he's like, well, we could get it at the Harold Washington Library. And I'm like, that's good. And I'm like, don't you have a relationship with Mayor Laurie Lightfoot? And he's like, yes. And I'm like, well, go ask her to do a convo with you.
Okay. That's amazing. And that's another example of what you do. Because I think sometimes people think, I have to, as a consultant, you're like, oh, I have to make it happen. I don't have that relationship. But it goes to exactly what you're talking about, which is going in and taking someone's power and then elevating their power. Yes. I love it. It's like, you know, the mayor, are you kidding me? Why are we like here in this corner? Like, let's make it big. That's really cool. And that is just going deeper and not being afraid to ask.
So this is actually, very quickly, Richard Townsel, one of my favorite longstanding clients, a Black leader in the city of Chicago, the executive director of the Lawndale Christian Development Corporation. At the podium to his right is Teresa Cordova, who I mentioned earlier, the director of the Great Cities Institute. We did strategic planning with Richard's organization over 2 years ago, virtually during COVID. And what came out of it in a series of interviews I did with leaders is that people did not know what Richard was doing when he had come back to LCDC after being gone for a while.
And it's the Lawndale Community Development Corporation.
LCDC.
This is what I was talking about. I apologize. I was
and this is where we found out that people did not know Richard had come back, rebuilt this organization, put it on the map, and was doing extraordinary things. And so we recommended that some research be done that could really frame what was going on in Chicago and North Lawndale, especially because there is an Invest Southwest initiative in Chicago, which is the mayor's primary priority of economic development. And it's being done in North Lawndale. So we were able to, again, go to a foundation, get some substantial funding for Richard to then, we recommended bringing in the Great Cities Institute to do
Wait,
this.
did you get the funding to do the research project and then brought in Great Cities? See, that is phenomenal. Like, people don't realize how hard that is to leverage all those things. One plays to the next. Like, there's such depth and richness there. Say your last sentence. And then, Laurie, I can't believe it. It is time for you to guess our flash exercise. So finish your sentence, though, because you were dying to.
I was just going to say that we then put together all this research that and identified what was the news, which is what is new in the world. And then we got the City Club of Chicago to have this program with leaders from North Lawndale that then presented a set of recommendations
Love it.
so the mayor's office and other key stakeholders could hear what the community wanted instead of having things being done to them. Not that they are necessarily doing things to the community, but that they could hear more of what the community wanted. So that was Teresa presenting the research in a panel with Richard Townsel, presenting their ideas for, again, movers, shakers, and candlestick makers. And it was sold out with over 300 people.
Wow.
And we had major articles in the major publications. So now people do know who Richard and North Lawndale, the Lawndale Christian Development Corporation is, and other key stakeholders who are at the table, because again, it was not about just elevating an organization, it was elevating the voice of a community.
Well, and the other thing that you did, which was so phenomenal, is like you said, what's the news? Everyone thinks like, oh, this is really important. Why aren't people listening? Because you really got to get that hook in that angle. Laurie Glenn, why did we choose, do the exercise with me? You can do it without the band. But so our exercise was with our band, an exercise mode. Remember, we did this pulling down for our shoulders, and then we tucked our head for the core and rounded our back.
Well,
so you're at home, or Laurie, at your desk, do it. Why did I pick that exercise for you?
Well, I thought maybe it was a kind of symbol of bowing to my knighthood.
Okay, this is how you know Laurie and I have been friends forever, because
I had no idea.
Laurie, I felt like this was going to be, I thought this would be too much like wearing white to your friend's wedding, but since you mentioned bowing, okay, so of course Laurie guessed. So there's two parts of it, but one part is yes, it was your bowing exercise to royalty.
About that. The other one was, I am strong, I am powerful.
Oh my God, that's so funny. Yes, exactly. Actually, that is exactly it. So actually, thanks, Steph, for coming. They're very informative. So I gotta love that Laurie and I've been friends for so long, because yes, there were three parts in there, which you've guessed two of them. The first one is an exercise for the top of your shoulders, which is really hard to get at. Like when we lift weights, we don't get that. So yes, it's all the things that you bear on your shoulders. Then absolutely, I love that you guessed it first. It was, Laurie, we're just going to bow down to you. I'm gonna do it every time I see you, to the point where you're like, can you stop it? But the other one was, because that bowing exercise is really good for your core. For people who don't know, Laurie is giving credit to everyone. She's talking about all these amazing things, but girlfriend's taken some punches in her time. So, you take those punches and you pop back up. And so that also was the reason. So who knew that aerobics and fitness could have such a deep meaning? Laurie, I'm so excited for you to join us. I absolutely love this conversation. Could not be more excited for you. Like, how huge is that? It really is, with so much going on in the world. Like, I know you're celebrating with your family, but I feel like it's so important to celebrate other people's successes. And it's wonderful. And it's, you work so hard for so many years, and you can get beaten down and be like, nobody cares. And it's like, no, the entire country of France actually cares, Laurie.
Well, I just,
oh my God, that's amazing.
It's not what happens to you, Deanna. It's always going to be what you do with it. So.
Yeah. So, well, thank you. Find Laurie at thinkinkstrategy.com. Again, Laurie got the National Medal of Merit from France. Laurie Glenn, president and CEO of Thinkific. One final thing I have to say, which is kind of strange, but it's still here, in terms of celebrating things. So this dress is also what I wore when I eloped on a pond, and my 35th wedding anniversary is
No.
this weekend. So speaking of celebration, not as big as Laurie, but yes, thank you. So
Thank you.
we'll see everyone next week on Intercultural Spark. Thank you so much for being with us.